Are the 49ers finally bringing in a real GM? What's up? Good morning, good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. Welcome to Quality Control. I'm Grant Cohn. I'm the quality control guy for the 49ers. Sometimes I do this show where I'm talking directly to the 49ers, but it's the offseason. I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to address a rumor going around, a lot of things I'm going to address, but a rumor going around that the Niners are going to be hiring a new general manager. If you haven't seen it, this was a podcast with Rob Stats Carrera and Dieter Kurtenbach from the San Jose Mercury News. They were talking. Dieter said that, well, Rob was saying it's time for the Niners to get like a real personnel guy to pick the players. It's like, yeah. And then Dieter was like, well, there's been conversations along those lines already. And Rob was like, what? That's news. And Dieter was like, well, it might not happen, but they've had conversations. So I don't know who he's talking to. I don't know if the person he's talking to is privy to the conversations, but let's assume that Dieter's correct, that the Niners have had conversations about bringing in a new general manager. Will they do it? I have conversations about hella stuff. I have incredible conversations, but they don't always manifest into reality. I don't think the Niners are going to hire a new general manager this year. I mean, the way Dieter said is that it could happen in the next couple of weeks or not at all. I'm going to go with not at all here. Because if you've been listening to Jed York, he's been talking a lot. He had that long interview with Alex Sherman, and Sherman was pressing him on this topic like, hey, is it kind of dangerous to bring in two guys, a GM and a head coach together and have them be so attached at the hip if one guy's clearly better than the other? Like, he's pretty much saying like, you got this coach that everyone likes, that everyone wants, and Kyle Shanahan, and this GM where it's like hard to say what he does. And the draft record hasn't been great the last few years, and Jed pushed back on that. But it's true. The draft record hasn't been. So what he said is he felt that what he learned from the Jim Harbaugh, Trent Baalke divorce is that you want those two guys to be together. They need to be communicating and they need to be brought in together. And I think the implication is that they need to be fired at the same time. Because what Jed did in that case was fire Harbaugh and keep Baalke. And I think he gave Baalke two more chances to hire a head coach. He hired Tom Sula. He hired Chip Kelly. It wasn't going to work. So he feels like he's had success here the last 10 years because Lynch and Shanahan came in together. So I would think that following Jed's logic of what he thinks a successful organization needs, if he ever were to move on from John Lynch, he would also move on from Kyle Shanahan. I don't think there's going to be a time where Kyle Shanahan's the head coach of this team and John Lynch isn't the general manager. Maybe I'm wrong. Is that blowing your mind? Does that seem like a hot take here? Because let's really be honest about it. Is John Lynch picking players? Or is he the face man, the guy who's there to talk and explain Kyle's decisions? That's been my impression. That John Lynch needs to go, not because he's bad at his job. It's because he's not doing the job. Kyle does the job. He picks the offensive players, certainly. I'm not sure if he picks the defensive players. Sometimes it feels like the coaches pick the defensive players. This past year, it felt like Saleh picked the defensive players. All of them. So my thought is, if the Niners are thinking about, if Dieter's correct and they're having conversations about bringing in someone else to pick the players, well, that's a reflection of Kyle, not John, because Kyle's picking the players, him and the coaches. Maybe the scouting staff, like in rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7, but it's Kyle picking the players. So if you bring in someone else, it's a shot at Kyle, and it's an indicator that he is on the hot seat because he's had he's been the dictator. He's been the emperor. Call him the emperor. That has less negative connotations of the 49ers since he's been here. And you bring in a real general manager. Now Kyle just does his job and you report to some guy. I don't think he wants to do that. And he's got 2 years left on his contract. The Niners had to bend over backwards to get him here in the first place, give him a fully guaranteed 6-year deal, give him extensions with 3 years. They always want to keep him happy. What if What if they get rid of John, bring in a new general manager that Kyle has to report to? Do you think he even want to sign an extension here? He might want to leave, go somewhere else where he gets to be the emperor. A lot of teams would make him the emperor. You think he's going to fall in line here when he doesn't have to, when he can make? And here's something that's interesting to think about. So my hypothesis here is that Kyle picks the players, and John is not a scout. John's not grinding tape. Kyle has to do all that stuff. And he generally does it now. I mean, he's not watching college football during the football season, but he's talked about his process. He watches a lot of film in February and March and April to try to figure out which players are the best fit for his system. So, you may or may not know, but in like a few weeks in March, Kyle's going to Saudi Arabia for 10 days to participate in this flag football thing. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? But that's 10 days before the draft. He's the general manager of the team, essentially. Shouldn't he be like watching? Shouldn't he be in Santa Clara or somewhere where he's like 100% focused on free agency and the draft and the 49ers? I mean, don't they pay him enough? Does he need another $5 million from this? I mean, I'm sure, I don't know how much they're paying him, probably like $5 million. That's a lot for a week and a half. I get it. But the Niners pay you a lot of money. You have a lot of money. What is the point of this? Why did he do the pregame show before the Super Bowl? Doesn't it kind of feel like he's marketing himself to the rest of the league right now? Before he didn't care. He was like a lifer with the Niners. Now it's like, well, you don't want me to go to Saudi Arabia. You want me to be all locked in with the Niners. Maybe give me an extension. Maybe give John Lynch an extension. Maybe extend us both so I don't have to worry about you bringing Trent Baalke back or something. Is that possible? Because he's moving like a guy who isn't necessarily like wedded to the Niners. Seems like a guy who's kind of thinking about getting himself back out there in the dating circuit. Now he's doing Tom Brady's thing, and Christian McCaffrey is too. What, that is so weird, that thing that's going on in Saudi Arabia, and the fact that the Niners are participating in it. God forbid someone gets hurt. It just seems like 10 days that the Niners don't need to be participating in. They don't even want to do Hard Knocks, but they're going to do this? So the fact that Kyle is going to Saudi Arabia makes me wonder, are you getting an extension from the Niners? Are you wondering if you're going to get an extension from the Niners? Are you sort of planning for life after the Niners? Are you trying to force the Niners to give you the extension? What's going on? All of a sudden, you're going on pregame shows and you dress and really nice. You don't say You say so many times for the 49ers, but when you're on NBC studio, you have great grammar? What? How come you can't do that for Jed? So I wonder if I mean, at the end of season press conference when I was at, John Lynch acted like a guy who didn't think he was going to be around much longer. He was verbally reminding us of his entire resume and how good it is, which is usually something someone does right before they're no longer employed, maybe to remind other teams. I'm just saying, they haven't got the extensions yet. Kyle's going to Saudi Arabia. John Lynch is advocating for himself. I wonder if this could be the last dance for the 40. Year 10. It's a special year. If Kyle makes it beyond 2026, all of a sudden he's the longest tenured head coach in franchise history. Does Jed really want that to be his legacy, that he let Kyle Shanahan hang around forever and become the longest tenured coach without a Super Bowl? Longest tenured head coach. I mean, what you'll be known for, what was the Kyle Shanahan era known for? Dragging on forever and ultimately producing no championships. That was the Kyle Shanahan era. I think there's a lot of pressure on both Kyle and John this year, year 10. I don't know if they have to win a Super Bowl, but I don't think they can take a step back. They got to show some progress against the Seahawks. They got to take a step forward. And if they don't, I don't know. Seems like the league is changing. It's not an offensive league anymore. Kyle doesn't have all the answers. Not that he ever did, but it's a defense league now. And it's a team it's a league that's run by very good general managers. Howie Roseman, John Schneider. Last 2 years, the best teams, the Super Bowl champions, have had the best general managers. Niners don't have that. Their system is really their front office system. It's just outdated. What other team gives All the power to the head coach and win Super Bowls. Even, I mean, you go back and watch the rise of the Niners. That was sort of the downfall of Bill Walsh. He took on everything. Personnel, which he was good at, play calling, head coach. Once he was gone and they had more of a regimented like team in 89 and 90, they were actually better in 89. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I wouldn't be surprised if this is Kyle and John's last year, which is why I don't think they're going to trade Mac Jones. God forbid Brock Purdy gets hurt again and they don't have a backup quarterback and they miss the playoffs. That could be the end of them. I mean, not bringing back Sam Darnold served up a Super Bowl to your rival Seahawks. You trade Mac Jones, that could lead to everyone's ultimate firing. So keep that in mind. I want to talk about that right now. So I was looking for topics, things to talk about today, and opened up the Chronicle. Great friend Eric Branch wrote his advice for the Niners for the offseason. So thank you, Eric, for giving me something to talk about. And his article is very well written and thoughtful. I definitely recommend checking it out. Get a subscription to Chronicle, all that. And respectfully, professionally, I disagree with some of his advice. So I'd like to just use his article as a jumping off point for a discussion. So his advice is to trade Mac Jones, Eric Branch, is trade Mac Jones for a second round pick and sign Zach Wilson. I get trading him for a second round pick. I wouldn't do it. But that does feel like you could probably get that. The reason I wouldn't do it is because Mac Jones is a known quantity. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL. I would argue a good one. Top 20. Definitely top 25. And he's in his 20s. And he's still cheap. That's a hell of an asset, not just for trades. You trade him for a second round pick. What are the odds of a second round pick becoming a good starter? 50%? 40%? It's a coin flip. So why trade away a good player at the most important position for a coin flip? So you can pick a guard or a safety. Important players. But it's not like he's a good backup. He's a starter. You have two starters, and your franchise quarterback, while you like him, has really struggled against the Seahawks the last 4 times, and he gets hurt, and you don't really know what his future is. So I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Then Branch says they should sign Zach Wilson. I think if there were a guy, like if they could find the next Mac Jones, next Sam Darnold, I could get behind trading Mac Jones. But this is supposed to be the next guy, Zach Wilson. And the logic is, look at Darnold, bad team, comes to Niners, career renaissance. Same with Mac Jones. How could Zach Wilson be any different? I think there are significant differences between Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, and Sam Darnold. I think Zach Wilson, I could be wrong, is much closer to like Trey Lance than Mac Jones. I mean, there was nothing the Niners could do for Trey Lance. He just wasn't developed enough. What the Niners do, they don't develop quarterbacks who haven't played, who don't have experience and teach them how to play the position. They just give them a system they haven't had before. Darnold had played a lot of football in bad systems. He'd never really been exposed to the Shanahan system at all, or a good one. He'd been playing for Adam Gase and freaking Matt Rule and some terrible, terrible coaches. Comes to the Niners, learns the system that is the dominant system in the NFL, and now he's a top half of the league player. So they did the same thing for Mac Jones. He had that first season with Josh McDaniels, I believe, went to the playoffs, and then had awful offensive coordinator after awful offensive coordinator, and then went and played for Doug Peterson, who's out of the league. So the Niners could say the same thing. Like, why don't we just bring him into this system? He hasn't been exposed to it yet. He's going to be a great fit for it. And now he's employable for half the league because half the league runs this system. Zach Wilson's different. Yeah, he went to the Jets, who suck, but he played for Mike LaFleur, who runs his system. And then he went to the Broncos and played for Sean Payton and was the third string quarterback. And then this year he was in Miami with Mike McDaniel, who runs the exact same system as the 49ers and was the third string quarterback. When Tua eventually got benched, McDaniel didn't go to Zach Wilson. He wasn't there Mac Jones. It was Quinn Ewers. So I don't know. A lot of coaches have looked at him and they're like, no on Zach. I would say no on Zach. I would say keep Mac Jones. You got he's I don't think that Mac Jones is placeable as you think, and I think the Niners kinda lucked out. They shouldn't have got rid of Sam Darnold, and you lucked out by getting Mac Jones the next year. Don't tempt fate. And here's the thing, you keep him one more year, you might wanna re-sign him in 2027. You might wanna trade Brock in 2027. You can trade Brock. You could trade Brock in 2027 and save like $6 million off the cap. You take like a 20-something million dead cap hit, that's nothing. That's nothing considering what the salary cap is 300 million this year. It's probably gonna be 325 next year. If you want to trade Brock, and you might want to, you don't know. He's year to year. I like Brock a lot, but he missed 8 games last year, and he's terrible against Seattle. If he has another injury-filled season and he can't make any headway against the Seahawks, or what if he misses 5 games, Matt comes in, plays well again, faces the Seahawks, and beats them? And then Purdy ultimately loses to them again next year, doesn't go far in the playoffs. Like maybe you're thinking, it's time to go a different direction at quarterback. I would want to keep the options open. Keep the options open. The Niners are they've been so eager to put all their eggs in the Brock Purdy basket. And I don't get it. Why? Why? He's not Joe Montana. He's very good. But you gave him an extension a year before you had to. It was stupid. You gave him an extension coming off a 6-win season. That was dumb. And so before it gets really, really, really expensive, this extension, keep the fallback option and give yourself the chance to maybe drastically change this roster. Because if Brock can't prove that he's worth all this money, maybe you trade him and go cheaper at the quarterback position and build through defense or weapons or whatever. Trenches. Mac is your get out of jail free card. That contract, it's not Brock, it's the contract. It's spending $50 million plus on a quarterback per season. I don't. It's very, 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 very hard to win a Super Bowl that way. And the Niners are going to keep learning that year after year, just like the Seahawks did when they had Russell Wilson making all that money. So no on Zach Wilson. Not a fan of Zach Wilson. Brandon Green says, if the team has back-to-back games on the East Coast, how far in advance do you learn if they decide to stay on the East for those 2 weeks? They haven't done that in years. They did it in 2022. The players didn't like it. And I think what the team decided is, while it may give you an advantage in the second East Coast game, you're so jet lagged when you get back that you usually lose the game coming back. And last time they lost the second game on the East Coast and the game when they came back. So I think that's why they don't do it anymore. All right. One more thing that Eric Branch advocated for in his article, which was excellent. Go check it out in the SF Chronicle. Get a subscription. Follow him on Twitter. Say hello to him. Tell him I said hi. He thinks Eric Branch thinks the 49ers should sign Alec Pierce, the wide receiver from the Colts. I've seen this a lot. This is a very popular opinion. He's a very good player. He averaged like 20-plus yards per catch. He's a deep threat. He would replace a lot of what Brandon Ayuk did, and he's younger and faster than Juwan Jennings. It might cost about the same amount of money. We're talking $20 million a year for a guy who's a number 2 wide receiver, and that's why I wouldn't do it. Is that what he's worth on the market? Yes. Is he a good player? Yes. But he's a number 2 receiver, and you already have one of those in Ricky Pearsall. I don't think Ricky Pearsall and Alec Pierce gives you that great. I don't if you're going to bring in someone, it should be AJ Brown or a legit wide receiver one. Just having 2 number 2 receivers, I don't think it scares anyone. And I think the bigger point here is that I wouldn't spend big money on the wide receiver position. The most overpaid positions in the NFL: quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle. Because, it's offense. It's supposed to be an offensive league, and those are the 3 most important positions on offense. So if you're paying for those positions, you're paying a premium. So you kind of want to avoid doing it as much as possible. The Seahawks, is it a coincidence that they won this year and they were paying nothing for their quarterback? He gets expensive this year. They're paying nothing for JSN. They're paying, both their offensive tackles were on rookie deals. That allowed them to spend on everything else. have the best defense ever, or one of them. So what the Seahawks showed, what the Eagles showed the last 2 years is to win the Super Bowl in today's NFL, you have to be dominant in the trenches. Have to be. Both sides have to be. The Seahawks are utterly dominant in the trenches. O-line, D-line. D-line, their D-line is great. Their offensive line is above average. First round pick at left tackle, first round pick at left guard that they drafted. They put serious investments into both sides of the trenches. They signed Cooper Kupp, and that was probably one of their worst moves. But he's solid. They didn't break the bank for him. They spend on D tackle, D end, linebacker, safety. That's what they spend on. I would not spend $20 million a year on a wide receiver who's going to catch 3 passes a game. Now, he could give you 60 yards on those 3 catches, but it's just 3 catches. He's not going to do enough. He's not going to block like Jawan Jennings did. Is a run first? No, I wouldn't do it. You already have Ricky Pearsall and Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cowan. You drafted those guys in round 4. You haven't even given them a look. You have to. And you could draft someone else this year, too. There's a bunch of wide receivers. That position is always deep in every single draft. No, not $20 million a year on any wide receiver. No. You put that money has to go to the trenches. It has to go to the trenches. O-line, D-line, you pick. So, okay, let's get right into it, and then I'll shout out AG1 in a minute. But who the Niners should sign? If it's not Zach Wilson, if it's not any, I would say no wide receiver. They could trade for Jordan Addison, who's still on his rookie deal, but then you're going to give him an extension. And I think, again, what we're seeing is it's not about having the best weapons. It's about being rock solid at worst in the trenches. So, not Alec Pierce, not Jawan Jennings, not Deebo Samuel, not a cornerback. And really, you could get an offensive lineman. But the way I look at it is the Niners drafted their first 5 picks last year were defensive players. 3 defensive linemen, Micah Williams, Alfred Collins, CJ West. I don't think you can do it again. I think it's ridiculous to spend another first-round pick this year on a defensive lineman. You just did that last year. And they're all projects and you knew it. So now, because they didn't give you, sacks, so you're gonna double up in the draft. Nah, I think they're gonna go offense in the draft this year. So I'm thinking in round 1, they gotta go offensive line. Trent Williams is 38, Jake Brendel's 34, and you don't have a left guard. So really, any position on the offensive line is good. If you could get a starting left guard in round 1, that'd be great. That's what the Seahawks did last year. But in free agency, I would go defense. It seems like it's a defensive league, and if you don't have a great defense, you're not making it to the Super Bowl. And the Niners don't have a great defense, not even close. They have a young defense with a couple, they got a young defense plus Bosa and Warner and Lenore, who's young. So a young defense plus Bosa and Warner. That's not enough. They need to make some serious additions to the defense through free agency after gutting it last year. And you know what? Maybe they were right to let Dre Greenlaw go. They were not right to let Talanoa Hufanga go. That was dumb. He's good and young. He was just coming off a torn ACL. It took him a year. Now he's really good. He should still be on the 49ers. So here are 2 players I think the Niners should sign this offseason instead of Alec Pierce. And they have the cap space to do it. First off, Odafe. I can't pronounce it. Hold on. Let me get his name. Sorry. I can't pronounce his name. It's a tough one. Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't want to butcher his name. I want to get it right. Odafe Owe. Okay? Odafe Owe was with the Chargers this year. He was with the Ravens before then. He's a Mike McDonald guy. Then he was with Jesse Minter, who was also, a Harbaugh guy. This past year, he had 7.5 sacks. The year before that, 10. The year before that, 5. He's a 3-4 outside linebacker. He's 27 years old. I think the Niners need a 3-4 outside linebacker because that's what Raheem Morris does. He's a 5-man front guy. They can use some 4-man fronts, but they were using 5-man fronts a lot last year with Saleh. And that 5th guy on the line of scrimmage was D. Winters a lot of the time. No, he's not good. And he's not a pass rusher. If you have a linebacker on the line of scrimmage, he should be able to rush the quarterback in addition to set the edge and drop into coverage. And Owe can do that. hell of an athlete. He's a good pass rusher. He'd give you like a bookend across from Nick Bosa, and then you could figure out the interior rushers, Michael Williams, and Alfred Collins. I don't know. I don't know about the interior rush. CJ West, but I think they definitely need to sign an edge rusher. Look at the Seahawks. They signed DeMarcus Lawrence. That was a great signing for them. They don't shy away from signing people in the front seven. They brought in Uchenna Nwosu. They didn't draft him. They traded for Leonard Williams and extended him. I didn't draft him. They're not shying away from bringing in veterans on the D line. They're not trying to draft. I mean, they did draft a few guys, Boye Mafe. I'm just saying. I think the Niners should do the same thing. Go get the best 3-4 outside linebacker out there. Get a guy who's in his 20s. I suggest Odafe Owe. And then you're not done. How about a safety? You can't keep going out there with Jair Brown. It's not good. And I don't even know about Malik Mustafa. I feel like the jury's out on Malik Mustafa, but I'm not looking to replace him. I'm looking to have someone next to him. Mustafa at strong safety. I want a free safety. How about Brian Cook from the Chiefs? He was great. He was ranked very highly by Pro Football Focus. He's a good all-around safety. He's good in coverage. He's good against the run. He's fast. He hits hard. You've had success bringing in former Chiefs DBs in the past. Safeties aren't that expensive. You could probably get him for like $10 million a year as opposed to Alec Pierce. And this guy would have a bigger impact on your team than a wide receiver who catches 3 passes a game. A free safety's in the middle of the action all the time. And I think one thing that Harbaugh preached, and you got to remember, McDonald is a Harbaugh guy. You always want to be strong up the middle. And the Niners are not particularly strong at safety. They're strong at middle linebacker. They brought in some reinforcements at defensive tackle, but they're not good enough at free safety. And that is a position where it doesn't cost you a lot of money to be good there. You want to be good at safety. This is why the Seahawks are so intriguing to me, because they spend on all the right positions. You can spend on D tackles, you can spend on linebackers, you can spend on safeties. Those aren't overpaid positions. Wide receiver is, quarterback is, offensive tackle is. So load up on those defense. You can really put together a great defense in today's NFL with all kind of talent. And the guys who are really expensive are the edge rushers and the corners. So I bet you Reek Williams is probably going to go. And they'll replace him with some corner who's on a rookie deal and fast and cheap. That's probably what they're going to do. They'll have a revolving door of they'll pay for like one edge rusher at a time, and then they'll have 2 or 3 guys who they drafted. They're going to have to pay JSN. It'll be interesting to see if they pay Charles Cross. But they're a defensive team. I wonder how many of those big contracts they'll give out to offensive players. Guys who play positions that are overpaid. It's going to be so interesting because they have an elite GM who knows what he's doing, and the Niners don't. So to me, if you want to learn how to put together a team, you got to look at Schneider and you got to look at Howie Roseman, although he's stuck with that terrible coach. And they have a new offensive coordinator every year, and no one wants to be the offensive coordinator. And the Eagles have some issues. But the Seahawks seem to be, well, they just won the Super Bowl, right? They seem to be pretty good. All right. AG1 time, as you can tell, I'm a big AG1 guy. I drink it every morning before I go to coffee. This is like a new thing for me the last month. I used to be straight to coffee guy. And what I would feel is like almost at the end of the first cup, I'd be sweating. I just was dehydrated, man. And plus I wasn't getting those the prebiotic, probiotic, all the biotic. I wasn't getting that. Superfood, none of it. Now I'm getting all of it. And in addition, it gets me drinking water the rest of the day just because it's once you start drinking water, you can't stop. And I got to say, there's no better feeling than being hydrated. I didn't know. Just be dehydrated for a long time, then drink water with some AG1 in it. Now I got hydration goals, water goals, all because of AG1. So thank you. Motivation comes and goes, but habits show up even when you don't feel like it. AG1 is the easiest habit that you can start now to support consistency, even when motivation isn't perfect, especially in February when January motivation dips and winter routines need a reset. I'm telling you, this is the best habit I've picked up this year. And I have some terrible habits. This is a good one. Most supplements overcomplicate things with tons of pills and confusing timing. An impossible schedule to maintain long term. AG1 simplifies your nutrition. Multivitamin, pre and probiotics, superfoods, and antioxidants all in one scoop. They got the antioxidants too. That's right. It's an easy daily reset that brings foundational nutrition no matter what your schedule throws at you. Weekend trips, late nights, or just the start stop routines that come with winter. I have a briefcase that I walk around with, and you know what's inside? AG1, nutrition, health. I use this every single day, and you should too. AG1 has more than 50,000 verified 5-star reviews and comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. For a limited time only, go to drinkag1.com/Cohn to get a free AG1 flavor sampler and AGZ sampler to try all the flavors, plus free vitamin D3 and K2 and AG1 welcome kit with your first AG1 subscription order. This is a limited time offer, only available while supplies last. That's drinkag1.com/Cohn, drinkag1.com/COHN. All right, so we're talking about the Seahawks and how they did it and what they've shown us about what a Super Bowl champion what it takes to be one in 2026. Who's the next Seahawks? One of the things that I mentioned about the Seahawks that made them so devastatingly good this year is they weren't spending big money on overpriced positions. Quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle. The Niners are heavy into those positions, and it's tough when you're spending 30 plus million on a left tackle and 50 plus million on a quarterback and 30 plus million on a wide receiver. And they got out of that contract. But they were really, really spending a lot on these things. Seahawks don't. They're great in the trenches. Niners haven't been that in a long time. They're great. They have a great secondary. Hell of a middle linebacker. So who could replicate their formula? I think it's worth noting that Sam Darnold was a big part of it last year. He was cheap. Now he's their highest paid player on the team in terms of cap hit. His cap is like $37 million, which makes, I know they do have cap space. So maybe John Schneider can figure it out. But it's going to be a much different roster construction for the Seahawks next year. I'm curious to see what it looks like. If they lose anyone, we'll see. They might repeat next year. But if they don't, who could sort of do what they did? I think that team is the Houston Texans. I feel like their defense is just as good as the Seahawks defense. And the reason that they didn't make it as far is because their offense is a freaking disaster. But I don't think it's as far away from being mediocre enough to win a Super Bowl as maybe other people do, because I actually think their quarterback is fine. I don't think he's great, but I don't think he's worse than Sam Darnold. I think he's fine. I think he has a really good wide receiver in Nico Collins. They drafted a couple other guys last year, and Higgins and Noel, who have promise. They were rookies. They have some tight ends. What they don't have is an offensive line or a running back. I don't know about their play caller either, but it's interesting. He comes from New England, and then he spent 2 years with the Rams. D'Amico came from the Niners. He had Bobby Slowick, who also came from the Niners. He fired Bobby Slowick to bring in this Nick Caley guy who was, with the Rams. So that's kind of D'Amico sort of pointing or sort of showing that maybe he thinks the McVay tree is a little, or the McVay system is a little bit better than the Kyle system. That's the way I interpret that. But if they can run the ball in Houston, they have a chance. Their running backs this year were Nick Chubb and Woody Marks. That's not serious. And they got rid of offensive linemen. If I wouldn't be surprised if they spent their first pick on an offensive lineman and their second pick on a running back, and if they hit those, then their offense could be good enough. And their defense is. And look, I always base my opinions on teams when I've seen them in person or quarterbacks. And so my impression of the Texans, take their defense out of it because they were facing the Niners backups, but their offense, I saw CJ Stroud absolutely dice up the Niners defense. They were missing people. But still, it's like he played like a vet. He was very mature. He took his ego out of it. The Niners sort of forced him to dink and dunk, and they didn't think he was competent enough to do it, and he did it. I think if he had a running game and a play action game and it wasn't all about him, I think they could win it. And wouldn't it be really something if D'Amico Ryans gets a Super Bowl before Kyle Shanahan? Would that be the final nail in his 49ers coffin? Darnold gets a Super Bowl before you got it. Okay. D'Amico too? I mean, here's a question. The 49 one of the most interesting things that Eddie did as owner of the team was push out Walsh when he did. 88. The next year, they win a Super Bowl with Walsh's defensive coordinator as the head coach, uh, George Seifert. And really, it was Bill's staff. They kept everyone. They just got rid of Bill. And they were better the next year. They won 14 games. They blew out the Broncos in the Super Bowl. Kind of interesting. What if Jed had done the same thing? What if Jed had fired Kyle after 2022? Just because you didn't win the Super Bowl and you got Brock Purdy hurt and you didn't protect him and you tried to block, what was it, Hassan Reddick with the backup third string tight end? What if you just fired him then? It would have seemed crazy. But it's the kind of thing Eddie did. And you could have replaced him in 2023, the year the Niners had the best roster like ever that didn't win a Super Bowl. You could replace him that year with D'Amico. And the offensive coordinator could have been Clint Kubiak, who just won a Super Bowl. Let me ask you this. I mean, I didn't advocate it for at the time. This is heavy-duty revisionist history. Pardon me. But will the history books show that the Niners actually would have won the Super Bowl in 2023 if their head coach were D'Amico and their offensive coordinator were Clint Kubiak? Is Kyle Shanahan a better offensive coordinator than Clint Kubiak? Yeah, probably. But is D'Amico a better head coach than Kyle? Would D'Amico have lost that Super Bowl? Because that's exactly what Eddie did, right? Hey, Bill, thank you for building all of this. Now we're removing you from what you built and keeping the entire structure, and we're going to be better without you. Niners could have done that if Jed had the same foresight as his uncle, but he didn't. And so you're waiting for Kyle in year 10 to do something that Darnold did in his first year with the Seahawks, that D'Amico could do in his fourth year with the Texans. Yeah. That'd be rough. I just feel like it's so improbable that the Niners have no Super Bowls in the last 30 years. It's incredible. They had every opportunity. They could have stumbled into a Super Bowl victory at one point, and it's really impressive that they didn't. It's remarkable. MB says Burrow will be available next offseason. The goal should be position yourself to get a top 5 quarterback or watch the Rams get him. Yeah, I suppose. The problem with Burrow is that he gets paid all the money and gets hurt. So, I mean, they gave him 2 of the best wide receivers in the league. They can't win anything with Burrow over there. They have no defense. I don't know. Is just getting Joe Burrow the ticket to winning a Super Bowl? It doesn't look like that. That doesn't seem to be the trend, just having a top 5 quarterback. Bills still haven't gone to a Super Bowl with a top 5 quarterback. Neither have the Ravens. Chiefs missed the playoffs with a top 5 quarterback this year. I don't know. B&A established 1988 says get Njoku or Higbee to pair with Kittle. Yeah, I would rather get a tight end than a wide receiver. Draft wide receivers. They're expensive. Tight ends are underpaid. Sign as many as you want. You're getting a great deal every time you sign a tight end. Every time. You're getting fleeced every time you sign a wide receiver. Fleeced. Plus, you signed DeMarcus Robinson last year and he's under contract, man. Use him. Ezio Sanchez says Niners were so thirsty in 2016. They let a 36-year-old OC pick the GM. Imagine Seahawks giving that much power to McDonald. Seahawks won with the opposite formula this year. That's the Yorks are weak. Yes, that is correct. The Niners were that thirsty. They were that desperate for, competency. And that's what Kyle delivers. If you're an incompetent organization like the Niners were 10 years ago, or like the Raiders are right now, or the Titans, or the Jets, oh my God, even Kyle would win with the Jets. Kyle would have the Jets feeling good. He'd have him in the mix. He is the dream coach for the New York Jets. Will he win a Super Bowl? Who cares? We're the Jets. We just want to not be the laughingstock of the freaking league. We want to be in the playoffs. Kyle provides that. He's a great coach for a lot of organizations, but if you really have, Super Bowl standards, I don't know if he's the right coach for you. Maybe he'll prove it at some point in his life, but so far it's been a long time and he hasn't. And the Niners really shouldn't have. Maybe if he goes to another team, with a stronger organization, if he were to go to I don't know. I mean, the Seahawks don't need a head coach, but if he would go to the Seahawks, maybe he would actually work with John Schneider and be better, or not. Surge for Six says all fun and games till they hire another yes man to Kyle Shanahan. All right, let's talk Roger Goodell. This is interesting. This is NFL at large stuff. Have you noticed that? Uh, well, we all know there's a lot of lawsuits that are being filed against the NFL. And they've been filed for a while. John Gruden's, Brian Flores, Steve Wilkes, Roy Horton. There's a few, and there's probably more. But up until now, the way it always worked is if you had a grievance with the NFL, you had to file it through NFL arbitration, which is run by Roger Goodell. So if you have an issue with Roger Goodell, you have to run it by Roger Goodell, and then he gets to rule on himself and his league. Well, yeah, that's not going to fly anymore. The Gruden lawsuit, the Flores lawsuit, those are going to court. Going to court. So all of a sudden, I wonder how stable Roger Goodell's footing is with the NFL. For 20 years, he's been running this league. And I don't even know if Paul Tagliabue was the commissioner that long. He's been in power for a very long time. He makes a lot of money. And the reason he does is because he seems to make the league a lot of money. Profits have gone up. But, I mean, if now he can't shield the league from lawsuits the way he did the last 20 years, and if it's open season on the NFL and there's nothing he can do about it, he might not be making them that much money anymore. In fact, he could be costing them a ton of money. The Flores suit and the Gruden suit could cost the league a lot of. When I say the league, I'm talking the owners, the people who pay Goodell's salary. So this will be something to monitor. The worse this Flores lawsuit is, the worse this Gruden lawsuit is for the league, the worse it is for Goodell. We might finally see the league get a new. I'm here for it. I think the Goodell era has been good from a financial standpoint for the league, but bad in every other way. I think media relations has been bad. I think fan engagement has been bad. I think you're further away from the teams now than you were 25 years ago. You get less access. You got to pay more for everything. I think this would be a welcome transition for the NFL. But I mean, what's going to happen with the Gruden thing? How much money are the Gruden Flores? How much money are the league going to give those guys to stop? Are they going to try to pay him off? And will they stop? Flores, he doesn't have. I mean, I don't know how much money he has. He might take the money or not. He could stand on business. Gruden has more. He's still probably getting paid by the Raiders. He could say, I don't want your hush money. I want to take this to the end, and I want to expose everyone in the league. You picked on me. You showed my emails. All right, let's see Jerry Jones. Let's see what you got on Jed York. Let's see what you got on everyone. This could be bad. So I wonder what the league's going to do to protect itself in its pockets. Because I don't know that Roger Goodell can protect them anymore. In fact, he might be getting them in trouble. Very interested to see what happens with these lawsuits. For the first time, Roger Goodell will be failing at his job, which is making the owners money. Kind of interesting. I think it's interesting. BNA established 1988 says, imagine Burrow playing next to power stations. Frank Tom Ocean 6916, member for 35 months. Thank you, Frank Tom Ocean. All right, hold on. Let's do some prize picks. I just got to get the prize picks on the screen. I was unprepared for the prize picks. Here we go. Nope. Oh, man. Roger Goodell. He's in trouble. John Gruden is going to get the last laugh on that one. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Share screen. Boom. Prize pick time. Who are we prize picking today, though? Do I want to go like something? Oh, All-Star game? Yes. All right. All-Star game. This is a game I won't watch, but it'll happen, and I respect that. How about, I don't even know how it works. Are these like not full games? Man. Okay. Jokic, 4.5 points in a game that I don't understand. It's probably a half game or a quarter of a game. I'm going to say less. I don't even think he wants to be there. Victor Wembanyama, I'm going to, no, 4.5. I'm going to say more. Wemby, less. Edwards, more. Pascal Siakam, more. And then Sengun, less. And then Tyrese, no. Yeah. No. All right. This guy who I don't know, I'm going to say more for him. Denny, for sure. He looks good. Or I'm going to flex it out just because I'm gonna put down $1 because I'm not feeling great about it. I want to, you know what I mean? You got to be realistic sometimes. Submit the lineup. It's the NBA All-Star game. I don't even know how it works. Got to be responsible. Just $1. Boom. Those are my picks. Download Prize Picks. Get in on this action yourself. Play $5. Get $50 instantly in lineups when you use promo code COHN over at Prize Picks. Do you guys like my suggestions? Brian Cook, Adafe, Owe. Go get defense, and then draft offense. You got to get younger on offense. If they want to go out and sign the best left guard in the market, by all means, that would be great. They could do that. They could sign David Edwards. He was with the Rams, and then he was with the Bills the last couple of years. He was one of the best offensive linemen in the league last year. He's in his 20s. He'd be great. You get him. But if they're going to spend $20 million on a player, he better freaking be in the trenches. He better not play wide receiver. That's how I feel. You guys agree? No? Yes? Thoughts? Maybe? Hey, holler at me in the comment section. I'm going to go lift weights and run around because I'm an athlete, man. And time waits for no one. I'm going to go read my book too. I got so many things I got to do. Reading a book called The Invisible Man. Ralph Ellison. Never read it before. So I got to get cracking on that. I'm in a book club. My friends from middle school. Shout out Devin and Aaron. They've already been reading it. Do you have any availability to do a show in the off season? Says the Camper Report. What's up, Ben? Yeah, I'm usually flexible in the off season. Email me. You got my email. We'll figure it out, Benjamin. He's probably like 35 now. When he first came on the show, he was in high school. All right, guys. I'm going to go work out and read at the same time and then do work and then relax. I'm going to work and take the day off at the same time. Only I can do that. And Kyle